Boeing is notorious, like that of any other aircraft manufacturer, for having a set of naming aircraft. If you take a look at their portfolio, we have the 707, 717, 727, 737, 747, and so on. But what's next after they use the 797? Stay tuned to find out.
People 851, turn right heading 180. 14 Papa, turn right 245, report localizer established 27.
Aviation companies like that of airlines and also manufacturers have a set way about them when it comes to format and formula. Every single decision is calculated and assessed to the smallest of margins to ensure that a good result does take place. It's critical for any airline or aircraft manufacturer's long-term success, and for Boeing, their formula of having 7-something-7 branding for their aircraft names has worked for half a century and more. However, soon that formula has to come to an end. You might ask why. Well, currently the only available number combination is that of the 797, and according to all reports, and also a lot of varying degrees of speculation in recent years, if Boeing proceeds with the NMA that is what the 797 could be known as, and if that was taking place, there wouldn't be any more combinations left. But does that mean Boeing would have to move to a totally different number sequence like that of Airbus, moving from the A300 series to the A200 series with their A220? Well, not necessarily, and that has a lot to do with original plans that Boeing had in place in the past, as well as past aircraft that I'd like to cover. The Boeing 720 or 720 is an odd aircraft name, considering Boeing usually sticks with that of the 7-something-7 naming. The Boeing 720 or 720 was produced in the 1950s onwards and was introduced with United Airlines back in 1960, now 61 years ago. It was a spin-off, if you will, for the Boeing 707 and was utilised on shorter flights from shorter runways, naturally not being as big. With a low development cost overall, the aircraft was profitable for Boeing in the long term, and while it only accumulated some 154 total orders, seeing 154 of those delivered, the type did not require that much work to develop, therefore it was profitable and a success for them. However, the Boeing 720 doesn't slot into their 7-something-7 naming, and that's because Boeing was originally going to name their 707 the Boeing 700, similar to almost the identical naming pattern as that of Airbus, with their A300, A310, A320, and so on. The Boeing 720, still to this day, some 61 years after its introduction, remains the only aircraft Boeing has produced for passengers that doesn't stick to the typical naming combination. The Boeing 727, though, was the successor to that of the Boeing 720 and 707, and ultimately, this had the 7 naming, and I would argue this is when it really stuck. From the 727 onwards, every aircraft has been the 7-something-7, all the way to the latest 787 and 777X. With that being said, the Boeing 720, no matter how old and originally a Boeing 700 idea, opens up a number of naming ideas for future aircraft at Boeing. Of course, naturally, there's always the potential to add Max and X onto existing aircraft names, should it be a new version of the existing unit. We've already seen this take place with the Boeing 777X and 737 MAX. On top of that, we've seen enough rumours with the 757 MAX and 767X to note that it is a potential avenue that Boeing could take, should they wish to do so. However, Boeing will not be able to continue re-engineering their existing planes forever. The industry will move on, and Boeing will need to as well. Although I think you could definitely argue that Boeing is putting the change of naming off. When a clean sheet design comes in, they'll need a new pattern of naming, that's for certain. The Boeing 2707 was also an aircraft Boeing considered, but never made it into the skies. This was a supersonic transporter. The idea of this naming sequence also opens up another possibility, but I feel it'd be a rather bad idea, considering it would mean reusing aircraft names and just adding the 2 in front, which to me, on all accounts, feels wrong if the new aircraft in question is essentially a totally different type. The perfect example was the 2707, a supersonic transporter, whereas the 707 has nothing to do with supersonic air travel. The idea of doing letters is also another idea similar to that of the 787, 7B7, and you catch my drift there. But I'd like to pose the question to you. How should Boeing name their aircraft for the future? Personally, I like the idea of the Boeing 720. In addition, I certainly don't mind something like the 701. But for me, revisiting already existing aircraft number sequences and adding a, say, 2 on the front, especially if they have nothing to do with the previous model, seems odd and wrong. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. And like always, thank you so much for your continued support. Please do take care and be safe, and I will see you all in the next video.